How you doing, guys? Big Mech Landschool back once again with another Conquest video for you. Today I'm going to be taking a look at issue 28. Ooh. So, issue 28 of Conquest. What have we got here? We've got a lovely rhino on the front, all complete and everything. What does that mean? Well, we got these sprues with the magazine this week, which help us complete our rhino. We've got some top hatches here, those sorts of things. We've got parts of Havoc missile launchers and some legs from a marine that's going to be poking out the top of one of the top hatches if you want. Racks here, some spikes, some chains, all chaos making stuff. So it's things that basically make your rhino from a standard Imperial Rhino to a Chaos Rhino, Chaos Corrupted Rhino. So that helps us get one of these bad boys on the front. So anyway, enough of the rambling now. Let's get down to the issue. Is it a good value issue? Well, this issue and the last issue help you build a Death Guard Rhino. It's around £23–24 from Games Workshop, something along those lines. Maybe 25, I'm not sure. And so 2 issues of this come to just under £16. So yeah, I'd say it's a good value issue. Battle Games of the 41st Millennium, as always. Complete your Rhino, learn about Mortarion, and add transports to your games. Now, the learn about Mortarion bit, I was quite happy with what we read in here, and I'll get to that shortly. So, let's turn. First page talks about the Predator Battle Tank and the role they play in the Space Marine chapters. Faction Space Marines, armor rating 7, speed 6, firepower 7. So it's a decent vehicle. Classification, the main battle tank, crew 2 Space Marines, and it goes through the armaments and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a brief little bit about the Predator tank. We turn to the next page and it talks a little bit more about them, and it has one of these brilliant diagrams that, as a youngster getting into the hobby years ago, I love this sort of thing. It's got a cutaway diagram showing you snippets of the inside of the vehicle, and that's the sort of thing that you get to learn more about a vehicle that you're playing with on the tabletop, and you learn narratively what the insides are like and where the power source for their weapons come from and stuff like that. So it's all interesting stuff in my mind. It adds that little bit more depth to the narrative for you. And then it's on to Corrupted Predators, Death Guard Predators. Interestingly, it talks here about Death Guard Predators, and it talks in particular about the crew. When you're assigned to a Predator or to a tank or vehicle of the Death Guard, it's often as a punishment, and the crew assigned to that vehicle are more often than not consumed by the vehicle itself, because there's a demon presence in the vehicle. The vehicle consumes whatever crew are assigned to it, and then they become part of the vehicle itself. And then it talks about the Second Plague Company briefly here in this little box. And the Second Plague Company make heavy use of armoured columns of vehicles, where most Death Guard forces don't. They like to have massed infantry on foot, whereas the Second Plague Company, a little bit different. They do make heavy use of vehicles. Goes on to describe 3 predators of the Death Guard Legion on the next page, and then following that, Death on Damnos. What's this? Necrons. That will please Idic Beer, I'm sure. So, it's got a short story here, Death on Damnos, that concerns the Necrons. And it's a frozen ice world of Damnos has held a chilling secret beneath its surface for thousands of years. Without warning, an entire army of Necrons awoke, emerging from below to wage war on the unsuspecting human settlers. Only the intervention of the Space Marines could stem the tide. Those heroic Space Marines are back again. It's no surprise that there's a hive world that wakes, and then the Space Marines, particularly of the Ultramarines, come to the rescue in this instance. And Sergeant Kronos Cronus is mentioned for the first time, I believe, anyway. He's like a tank commander. The Spear of Macragge is his title. That's what it says here, anyway. The title taken by the commander of the Ultramarines tank formations. So I thought the Spear of Macragge was just a formation, the name of a formation, but apparently that's the title taken by Sergeant Kronos, who is a tank commander of the Ultramarines. He's very famous, and there are rules to play him in the Space Marine Index, and I assume in the Space Marine Codex as well, but I'm not entirely sure about that. On to the next page. What have we got? Mortarion, Birth of a Primarch. This is a fantastic story. I'm not going to read through it. I'll just give you a brief overview. The world he was raised on was barbarous. The atmosphere is toxic clouds, terrain, mountain ranges and wide valleys, inhabitants, alien warlords and human settlers. So, when the Primarchs were scattered across the galaxy, Mortarion came to land on Barabbas. But Barbarous, not Barabbas. I always call this planet Barabbas. But Barabbas is someone from the Bible. And anyway, it's Barbarous. So, Barbarous, yeah, so Mortarion lands on Barbarous. There's these alien overlords, warlords. Is it warlords? Yeah, it says warlords. Dominating the planet, controlling the planet, and subduing the human populace. And Mortarion, as all Primarchs, rises to prominence. He at first is adopted by one of the alien warlords, and he's given this mansion, castle on this mountainside, where in these toxic clouds that he can breathe, but other humans can't. Humans have to live right down in the valleys. So that's one way the aliens use to control and subdue the humans. They limit their ability to move around the planet. And Mortarion eventually realises that this guy who's adopted him is potentially a bad guy when he ventures down to see that these humans are here and they're more like him than the alien warlord is. And he realises they are actually his people. He starts to lead them, and he leads them in a rebellion against the alien warlords. When he does that, they can only get so high up the mountains and into the clouds. He develops a breathing apparatus for the humans to use so that they can overthrow the warlords and the dictators. And eventually they can only go so high, and all of his human warriors are left behind. And then the Emperor turns up, the Emperor of Mankind turns up, and he challenges Mortarion by saying, if you can go and defeat the final alien warlord, then I'll leave this place and you can rule the world of Barbarous, not Barabbas. You can rule the world and I'll go away. But the Emperor knows that Mortarion is probably going to pass out through the inhalation of toxic fumes before he's able to defeat the alien warlord. So, but Mortarion accepts that challenge. The other side of it being, if he doesn't defeat the alien warlord, then Mortarion will pledge his service to the Emperor of Mankind. And then Mortarion goes to try and defeat the alien warlord. He sort of stumbles into his keep and then collapses because he's overcome by the toxic fumes. Only for the Emperor to turn up in front of Mortarion between him and the warlord, and then the Emperor defeats the warlord and then reveals himself as Mortarion's father. So that's the story briefly for you. It was supposed to be brief, but I'm sure that lasted about 2 or 3 minutes, so I apologise if it wasn't brief enough. And that's it's a really, really cool story. And yeah, there's not much else I can say about that. Oh, the legion that Mortarion went on to command were originally called the Dusk Raiders. However, the reason they're called the Death Guard is because on the planet of Barbarous, Mortarion and his followers gave themselves the name of the Death Guard. So he renamed his legion, which were the Dusk Raiders, in honour of the followers on Barabbas. Barbarous, not Barabbas. Okay, next page. So next page we've got Death God Rhino painting guide. Lovely. We've got all these paints we're going to be using. And then it's 6 pages of painting guide again. It's given us your typical, what we're seeing nowadays, small pictures focused on certain areas, just telling you where to put certain paints. Is it 6 pages? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's 6 pages. And then, interestingly, they've painted a Space Marine helmet here as the Ultramarines blue colour there, which, obviously, the Ultramarines being the enemy of the Death Guard in this magazine, it's probably best to do it that way. However, if you are splitting the collection with a brother, a sister, a friend, then maybe, if you're the Death Guard player, then maybe think about painting it however they've painted their Space Marines. So if they've gone for a red colour scheme instead of a blue one, paint it red. You don't have to paint your vehicles and stuff exactly as they do in this magazine, which I'm sure you know by now. I'm sure you've realised. The next section after the 6 pages of painting guide is a transport section. So this is a tutorial, just telling us how transports work, how to embark and disembark from them, and it just gives you a really nice overview, and it also refers back to the 8-page rules card that we've got, and it tells us the rules for transports are in there as well, or the full rules for transports are in there, it says. This here, the transport rules, can be found in just a dark section on that. So other than the overview for that, it tells us about tank traps. Yeah, so it does give us a quick summary here. If a model with the vehicle keyword has to move over a tank trap when advancing or charging, you must halve the advance or charge distance, rounding up. These results replace those in tutorial 22. So that's just talking us through the use of tank traps and interacting with tank traps as a vehicle. The next page is the Chaos Rhino data sheet, which is fantastic. There's some lovely weapons here. The Combi Bolter, of course, it's 24-inch range, rapid fire 2 weapon, meaning when you're within 12 inches, you get to fire 4 shots instead of your standard 2. And the Havoc Launcher, which is a nice little weapon. 48-inch range, so you're going to be able to reach anything on the battle map we're using. And heavy D6, that's a lot of shots potentially. Strength 5 weapon, so you're going to be wounding Space Marines on 3s. And damage 1. There's no AP value for that, unfortunately. But there we go. We've also got smoke launchers, which can prove vital in some missions. Once per game, instead of shooting any weapons in the shooting phase, this model can use its smoke launchers until your next shooting phase. Your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls for ranged weapons that target this vehicle. Meaning, Space Marines normally hit on 3s, so if you activate your smoke launchers before they get to shoot, then they'll be hitting on 4s instead of 3s, which might not sound that big a deal, but it can make all the difference if you've got a squad of Hellblasters shooting at you or something like that, and they're getting a lot of shots. It's just going to reduce the amount of shots that actually manage to hit you. And then it's onto the mission briefing. Mechanized warfare.
The ignorance of these foolish sons of Gilliman knows no bounds. Still, they hold on to lies and half-truths of their withered emperor. Generous grandfather Nurgle has offered them clemency, but they refuse his gifts. Now is the time to show them the error of their ways. Strike hard and without mercy. Carve a path through their lines. Cut out the heart of their pathetic forces. Praise to Nurgle. May he guide us.
So that was a transmission intercepted there by the Ultramarines. The transmission was coming from Death Guard Lord Felthius. And then the Armoured Assault mission. So the Armoured Assault mission is a nice little mission. The Space Marine player sets up in the deployment zone, 6 inches from one end of the battlefield. The Death Guard player sets up the Poxwalkers in this deployment zone, But there's more units for the Death Guard. So we've got the Blight Hauler, 12 Poxwalkers, Rhino, 5 Plague Marines. Where are they going to come from? Well, they're going to come from down the street here. This little green area is where the Blight Hauler and the Rhino will enter from. But what about the Plague Marines? They're inside the Rhino. What? Amazing. So they have to enter one at a time, but when they enter, they have to get down to the Space Marine deployment zone. That's the basic mission. The Death Guard player is aiming to get as many units into the Space Marine deployment zone as possible, and the Space Marine player is just trying to kill as many enemy units as possible. How would I, as a Death Guard player, go about this mission? I'm not entirely sure. I think I'd have to run through it a few times to decide on the best strategy of this one. What I'd be tempted to do is maybe hide the Blight Hauler behind the Rhino. So, because the Rhino's slightly bigger, hey, you know what? I've got the Mephitic Blight Hauler and Rhino here. Let's have a look if we can hide it fully. No, I'd say you can't quite hide it fully there, unfortunately. You can just see the top of the Blight Hauler, but from model's eye view, it's going to be difficult to see that Blight Hauler. So, I think from a model's eye view, and when you're still quite far away, you can actually hide that Blight Hauler. So if the Space Marine player makes the mistake of bunching up all of his units, which I doubt they will, then you could potentially hide the Blight Hauler behind the Rhino. But even if you can't, you can get your Poxwalkers involved somehow and try and block off the path. Offer up your units that you have most models in. So your Poxwalker, sort of push them towards the Space Marine lines first, and you've got 5 turns to get there, so you might be able to do it. Let's find out. Let me know in the comments below how you went about this mission as a Death Guard player, and as a Space Marine player, of course, how did you go about killing, defeating, destroying the Rhino, and all of those tough Death Guard units. Here's the back page, and next week we're getting some more Space Marine heroes. We're getting the Captain in Gravis armour, we're getting a Sergeant, an Intercessor Sergeant, and a Hellblaster Sergeant, so that'll be our 3rd Hellblaster there, which will give the Space Marine some real added firepower. And of course the Inceptor Sergeant as well. So that'll be 2 Inceptors, 2 jumping units for the Space Marine player. And then issue 30, Rise of Pattern Ruins as predicted. Amazing. Yeah, so last week I said I think it's the Rise of Pattern Ruins probably, because there's a few sets we're going to get before issue 40. So that's why, you know, I made an educated guess basically. I'm not Mystic Meg. There's going to be people watching this video now in other countries thinking, who the hell is Mystic Meg? She's a what do they call them? There's the people that look at stars, what are they called? And then there's the people that look at star signs, what are they called? I can't remember. Write in the comments below if you can remember. I can't remember what either of them are called. But they're similar. Anyway, so we're getting the Rise of Pattern Ruins in issue 30. I don't know what we'll be getting in issue 31, I'll be honest. I think I won't be surprised if it's some paint. Might not be. Might be something else. So that's all I've got for you. I look forward to next week's issue to see what we're getting in issue 31 as much as anything else. But yeah, the Space Marine characters next, so it's adding some real toughness there with the Gravis Captain, and another leader for you there, so that's fantastic. I'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.